Hello, podcasters and YouTubers. Welcome back to another show with Nicole McKinney. If you are watching this episode and you have yet to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe to our channel now. Like this video if you like the content. If you want additional content or something new, let us know. We are an open book and we're here to support you. All the content I'm bringing forward, I want it to be meaningful to you and where you're at in your life. One of the most important things for me, and one of the things I say all the time, is that I didn't get here overnight. I've been learning from other people. I came from absolutely nothing. I didn't have $1 million loan when I kind of stood up my organization, my businesses. It's really just been through hard work and grit. I've been working since I was 14 years old. So I'm bringing you content to help you on your journey. I've had a ton of mentors, so hopefully this content, you can relate to it. Hopefully you're someone who looks like me, whether you're a woman or you're a person of color, and maybe you're not. Either way, I want you to kind of listen into this content and learn how I got started, how I started my businesses, and where I'm at today. So this video today is going to be fairly short and sweet, but I think it is super important. I've always been like, hey, I remember very vividly the first time when I said, all right, I'd love to make just $100,000. I'll be happy and I won't have to worry about, anything else. That was getting to $100,000. And when I got to $100,000, I'm like, all right, I can keep going, right? So at my full-time job, I walked away when I was making $170,000, transitioned to focus on businesses that I own myself. My consulting firm doing extremely well, making way more than I ever made in my full-time job in corporate America. And then a real estate business that's just growing, getting off the ground right now as we speak. In a lot of these episodes, I'm going to talk about that real estate because I think to me, it's one of the most important things that I've began to do as I'm kind of building out my financial goals. So I will dig into that so much more as we're going through this content. Hopefully you find it useful. But today I wanted to talk to you about net worth. So I really had no clue what net worth was until recently. I listen to a lot of people, I think it's Graham Stevens, kick me if I say that wrong, Bigger Pockets, and they've got a really good podcast that I'm listen to all the time. Dave Ramsey, Grant Cardone, really entrepreneurs, business owners who to me are folks that I want to learn from, right? I don't know everything, but I know, hey, if they're making, millions of dollars, I should try and figure out what they're doing, right? How are they doing it? And there are the Facebooks, the Amazons, the Teslas. And that's a great area to kind of look into if you're like in IT and you're super smart and you can come up with great creative ideas. You've been with me for a while. My creativity is fairly limited. And so I'm not going to come up with a Tesla, right? I'm going to come up with grit, hard work, and energy to perform my job and do it really well. But I'm not the most creative, especially with things like that. How can someone just like me become a millionaire? And before you even start thinking about those things, you might want to just learn a bit more about your net worth. And maybe most of you guys know this. If so, skip this content, move to the next one. But for those of us who say, hey, I want to be a millionaire one day, how do I get there? I'm new to all this stuff. I'm literally with the microphone in front of me, camera in front of me, computer beside me. My editors will make all of this seamless, but on my screen today, and hopefully you guys can see it if you're watching this on YouTube, I've literally just went to NerdWallet. I use it all the time. I love NerdWallet. They have a net worth calculator out there, or at least a tool that will allow you to kind of do a net worth calculation for yourself. And at the highest level, your net worth is taking all of your assets, subtracting your liabilities to get to a net worth. So how do you get there? A lot of people, I'm going to, just use just your standard corporate America employee who spends 30 years there. They come out with, $500,000, maybe a little bit more, maybe $1 million, $2 million in a 401k or a retirement savings plan. And that is how they end up becoming a millionaire, because by the time they're retiring, they've paid off their home. So they've got that asset with no liability tag to it. And they're probably living a pretty, a life that doesn't come with consumer debt, credit card debt, and some of that bad debt that comes along with it. They probably paid off all their student loans. And so they come out with a hefty net worth of over $1 million by the time they get to 60, 65, or sort of near that retirement age. For us who are kind of a little bit younger, I'm not super young, but I'm sort of still in my 30s. trying to decipher, my net worth wasn't something I thought a lot about until I started getting into real estate a lot more and realizing that you can really propel your net worth fairly quickly as you begin to own assets and reduce your liabilities, or have more assets than you do liabilities, right? And so if you're looking at your assets on screen here, it's going to be things like your checkings account, savings account, retirement savings, real estate, jewelry. A lot of diamonds are an appreciating asset, so you can put it in the asset category. Some of the liabilities, and we're going to touch on some of these. If you listen to Robert Kiyosaki, which is someone I didn't mention up front, but definitely someone that I'm spending time listening to, he considers things good debt and bad debt. And so if you're looking at this liabilities bucket, consumer debt is your worst debt. So if you don't take anything from today's episode, this podcast, this YouTube video, it's don't go and buy a whole bunch of sort of consumer debt. So that's your credit cards, right? So don't go out and use your credit cards if you can't pay those off immediately. I use credit cards a lot. It's one of the things I do all throughout my business, but every single month before the statement closes, I'm paying off that debt because it's bad debt. And I'm often just doing it to consume the points, right? I want all the points or the cash back or all the offers that they're going to give me for using my card, but I won't overextend myself because at the end of that month, I'm going to pay all that debt off. Consumer debt is bad debt. It's not good for your credit profile. It's not good for you, and it can get you in a lot of trouble. High interest rates, really bad. I will say there are some times where you may use a credit card and it works in your benefit. If you're doing something like making a super large purchase and they give you 48 months interest free and you have to have it paid off within that period, as long as you divide your payments accurately across the period that they're giving you and you don't get eat up with interest, it's fine. But if you're not capable of paying it off before the interest kicks in, I recommend you not use a credit card. So to me, I'm anti-credit cards if you're not willing to put in the effort to make sure they get paid and you're not getting eat up in interest. You will be paying on credit cards forever if you do that. So I could harp on it all day, but if you don't take anything else away from today's session, it's don't get yourself in credit card debt, period. Not a good place to be, not a good position at all. Let's see, mortgages. So again, in your asset bucket that you'll see on screen, you'll see real estate. Some of those real estates, if you carry or leverage that debt, you'll have a mortgage payment. And so that's going to be in the liabilities bucket. Whatever you pay for that mortgage every month is the liability associated with it. Auto loans, student loans, things like that. So for me, what I've been able to do, and so you'll notice, interestingly enough, what's not in there is you can't really take your salary and say, well, this is part of my asset bucket. No, it's not, guys. If you ever thought that, don't think it. It's really what money do you have, whether it's in retirement accounts, your checkings account, or in real estate, and what does that look like? And so if you're interested in your net worth, do a few things. If you own real estate, which is something that I do, look at your total portfolio. Right now, I own 5 doors. It's 2 single-family homes and a triplex that's under renovation right now. I have some content, hopefully, that I'll show around that triplex that's getting done, and lots of information to share with you around where I'm at in that process, just generally speaking, that I think will be interesting to you. And so we'll talk about that a little bit in one of our upcoming episodes. But real estate. So I have those 3 homes, 2 single families, and a triplex. The triplex is under renovation right now. And then I have my personal home that I purchased about 4 or 5 years ago. And so that's another asset in that real estate category. So if you look at it, you see, if you want to know what those assets are worth, go out, simple, to realtor.com and look for comps. If you're a real estate agent and you own real estate, and I'm not a real estate agent at all, but you can go out and see some comps, very easily go to comps. But for me, what I'm typically doing is saying, okay, hey, this is my neighborhood. So my personal home, what are homes in my neighborhood selling for today? Simple, right? So I bought this home 4 years ago at about $400,000. The homes are now selling for $700,000, around $650,000 to $700,000. So you could say if I still owed $400,000, which clearly we've dwindled that down a bit, but a little over $300,000 around $300,000 in equity in that property. And it's $700,000 basically from a value standpoint. That $700,000 would go in your asset bucket. I pay a mortgage on that. That mortgage will go in my liability bucket. You kind of get the idea, I hope. So $700,000 in the assets, mortgage payment then goes in the liabilities bucket. Other ones, my real estate that I've actually purchased, I've got 2 single family homes I actually purchased for a steal. One was $75,000. I put about $75,000 into that one. It's a disaster. I'll talk to you about some of my real estate ventures so far in a couple of the upcoming episodes together, and you'll learn from some of the mistakes that I made early on in the process where I'm kind of figuring things out. But I spent $75,000 on the property. I should have spent probably half that, ended up spending, times 2. So, but that property now appreciates at around $150,000 in total, right? So I put $75,000 into it. Good thing is I've gotten that all back in sort of this forced appreciation because I renovated the entire home. Next home I bought, I think it was for around $75,000 too. I probably put about $25,000 to $30,000 into that unit. It's now worth $150,000 as well. So again, forced appreciation. I go into these homes that are a little bit distressed and sometimes a lot distressed. I renovate those homes, and then I have forced equity in those properties. And if you're paying, $75,000 and you're doing bank lending for that, you're probably paying around $300 to $400,000 or $300 to $400, somewhere around the $400 a month range. I'm renting those units out for about $850 each. So as you can see, good cash, good cash flow from the properties based on what I purchased them for, and then lots of forced appreciation. So I've got on my asset side, just in what I just talked to you about, $700,000 and then $300,000 in the 2 properties that I purchased. So that's $1 million right there. I've got one property right now under renovation. It's a triplex. It was a little bit of a disaster. I only spent $130,000 for that unit. It appraised at around $140,000, I think, up front. So not a ton, but I'm forcing a ton of appreciation to that unit right now. Once it's complete, I think it'll be worth anywhere between $350,000 to $450,000. So we'll see where it is, but I feel like that's going to be the range on that one. So we'll hopefully get that situated in the next, I think we got about 4 to 5 months on the renovation there, but then I'll have some additional forced appreciation into that triplex that was in a distressed state, and then I'm going to have all that equity and appreciation and value in it. And so my portfolio will look like, just in the real estate section, around $1.4 million. And I've got a couple of other things moving right now where I might get some additional units. And so as you can see, where I'm focusing my attention to continue to increase my assets is primarily in the real estate sector. I do have a retirement savings account. I do have checkings accounts, savings accounts, all of those great things that do add additional dollars into that asset category, but that real estate bucket really does help me. We talked about in some of my previous episodes what I do. I own a consulting firm. A lot of the dollars I get from that consulting firm, I spend a lot of time in the real estate sector. And so guys, if you do have some cash on hand, I highly recommend you getting in the game. I know people are like, wait a minute, Nicole, you're telling people to do that? What? Interest rates are going up. No one's selling their homes anymore. If they are, they're still slightly overpriced. But today's market right now, right where we're at today, is a great time to get in. You can negotiate. Now, I'm an accountant at heart. I negotiate every single deal. I don't want to go in at asking price on any home. I actually opt not to oftentimes, unless it's such a great deal that I don't want to fuss with someone on it. But it's a great time. There's less competition out to market at the moment. And so if you're a small investor, it's a great time to get in. If people are nearing retirement and ready to sell off their portfolio, they're going to have limited competition, because not very many people are going to take the risk of purchasing right now. And when everyone else is standing on the sidelines, I encourage you to get out there and do something, and that is invest in real estate. I'm truly hooked. So if you haven't listened to things like Bigger Pockets, go ahead and do so. In my next episode, I'm actually going to talk to you about my thoughts around my real estate portfolio and where I'm going very young still. I plan to have tons of these, so I'm sort of in that infancy stage. In this triplex that I just purchased, I'm actually going to put my first Airbnb unit, so I'll kind of keep you guys posted on how that works. I'm not going to self-manage the Airbnb. Most of my single family or my residential rentals, sort of long-term rentals, I manage myself because I'm learning. And I want to take the time to learn and understand this business so that I can be really good at it. And I don't want to have someone else doing it for me and I know nothing about it. So I'm taking the time right now as I'm kind of growing my portfolio to manage it myself, build up my assets, build up my net worth. And I think this is super helpful for folks. So hopefully you now officially understand how you can get to your net worth. Again, the calculator on NerdWallet will allow for you to kind of go through and come up with those calculations, right? So hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, if you want me to dig into anything a little bit further around how you would come up with your net worth calculations, let me know. But that NerdWallet calculator will give you a preview into what your net worth is. Assets minus liabilities will give you your net worth. Go look at it and come up with some creative ways to continue to expand and build that out. If you're looking into real estate, continue to watch this podcast and YouTube channel. I'm going to continue to give details on what I've done to start my journey and why I did it. And a lot of the why is folks that I just mentioned earlier as we were kind of talking through this net worth calculation. It's people who've been in this business purchasing real estate. I've learned a lot from them. So hopefully you like the content today. Subscribe to the channel, guys. If you haven't done it yet, do it now. Subscribe, give it a thumbs up. If you want additional content, if you want me to dig into something a bit more, let me know. And I'm happy to do that. And our next episode, I think I'm going to take you through, I don't know yet. I kind of figure that out as I'm going, but Bigger Pockets, which is a platform that I'm on. It's a podcast that I listen to actively. They've got some really great resources if you're ready to get into real estate. And so I'd encourage you to take some time to go listen to their podcast, go look at their biggerpockets.com website. They've got great tools out there that help you evaluate a potential real estate investment and make sure it's good for you. And then they have forums out there where you can ask questions and dig in a little bit more with people who are doing this every single day. So you don't have to do it on an island all by yourself. And you don't have to go out and hunt down someone who's in this real estate market or sector that's doing investment. You can actually just go out to the Bigger Pockets forum and find people just like you, either interested or already in this real estate journey. So this is Nicole. I'm signing out today and look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode.